Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie. We're in our TOEIC unit, and I'm here with Tom, and we're on day 2. Today, we're going to focus our time and attention on 2 countries. One is Ghana, of course, and one is Tanzania. And they've had some successes with digital financial services. When we last talked to you about DFS, we were talking about looking at some case studies where they've had some successes with DFS in Africa. So that's what we're going to do today.
It is, absolutely. We were talking about the possibility of some case studies that was brought up in their conversation last time between Damien, Erica, and Bob about digital financial services. So yeah, we think in theory it's a good idea, but we've got to actually have some examples, some case studies in which it was used and in which it was successful. So we've got a couple of case studies we're going to talk about in today's program. So let's get to it, everybody. Let's read the entire contents of our Unit 16 for today. Ghana and Tanzania, 2 successes for DFS. Many people around the world don't have access to financial services, particularly those in rural areas and developing countries. In order to solve this problem, some countries have introduced digital financial services. In 2 African nations, Ghana and Tanzania, DFS has helped create new opportunities for many, making their lives considerably easier. In Ghana, DFS took some time to get going. However, after the country revised its regulations, DFS increased the number of people with access to financial services by 41%. Since then, more online businesses have developed, and new products made possible by DFS have entered the market. Tanzania took to DFS even more quickly. The first form of online payment was launched in 2008. In 2017, a survey showed that 60% of Tanzanians had used DFS in the previous 12 months. In both cases, DFS was mostly used for payments between individuals at first. As more and more people began using DFS in this way, its popularity grew, leading to its adoption for other transactions. Additionally, both case studies show that countries wanting to introduce DFS need to be patient and get the correct regulations in place. Now that the 2 countries have established DFS markets, additional services, such as insurance payments and investment options, are also being explored. These case studies provide valuable insight for countries that want to develop their own DFS markets.
Okay, let's dig in, guys. It says, many people around the world don't have access to financial services, particularly those in rural areas and developing countries. We mentioned this in day 1 of our TOEIC unit. You remember the meeting we had between Damien, Erica, and little Bob? They were talking about how it's particularly hard for people who are living in poverty to actually have access to financial services. Most of these developing countries rely on a cash economy. They don't have credit cards. They don't bank online. I think the best thing about Taiwan's banking system for me, Tom, is that you can transfer money to someone so easily just by going to an ATM. If you have their bank number, you're all set. Love that. We didn't do that in America before we moved out here. I don't know what they're doing now because I haven't lived in America for, 13 years now. So we need to help these folks who don't have access or who aren't able to use some of these financial services that we take for granted. There's a lot that we have in our lives that we should really be more grateful for. And once I hear about this stuff, I'm more aware of what's going on with other people, and I think I need to be more thankful, more grateful for what I have.
We should always be more grateful and thankful for what we have. But let's talk about a couple of case studies here. Ghana and Tanzania. Now, Ghana is a country in West Africa, and there are about 21 million people living there. And then Tanzania, of course, is in East Africa, which is way on the other side of Africa. It's got about 36 million people living there as well. So these are good case studies here. But it says there are 2 successes for DFS. Some places where digital financial services actually worked and became successful for these 2 African nations. Now, many people around the world don't have access to financial services, particularly those in rural areas and developing countries. So this is true. We talked about this last time. What did they say? About 2 billion people don't have access to these financial services.
Tough.
They're kind of trapped in a cash economy. They're vulnerable to natural disasters and stuff like that. So, of course, this affects people who live in country areas, in rural areas, and also in developing countries, which would be what, in South America, maybe even North America and Africa, Asia, etc., etc.
So in order to solve this problem, what are we going to do? Well, some countries have introduced DFS, or digital financial services. So in 2 African nations that Tom told you a little bit about, Ghana and Tanzania, DFS has helped create new opportunities for many. And that's what some people need, just an opportunity. They're not asking for you just to give them a handout, which just means you give money to someone. They're asking for opportunities and access so that they can conduct their business more easily, more freely. They have more opportunities. So if you talk about something being considerably easier, considerably means much, much, much easier. That's what they're trying to do, at least in these 2 African nations, just create new opportunities for folks so that their lives are easier.
Okay, so let's go to Ghana here. In Ghana, DFS took some time to get going. Okay, so here we've got the verb phrase to get going, which means to start moving, to become effective. So, yes, indeed, they probably introduced this idea to the country, but people were slow to accept it. They probably didn't trust it. They were used to using cash. So it took some time to get going. It took some time for people to accept it. However, after the country revised its regulations, DFS increased the number of people with access to financial services by 41%. And so here we've got the word regulations. That just means laws or controls that the government has. And those sometimes can slow down progress in a country. If you have too many regulations, of course, then the economy cannot function freely as a free economy. And most people agree that capitalism pretty much works. Everybody has the opportunity to set up their own businesses and stuff like that. So if the government controls stuff too much, things are going to move at a snail's pace.
They're trying to revise regulations, which will help. So if you revise something, you change it. Usually you're changing it to make it better. Revise is the verb. And even though it's spelled with an S, we actually say revise with a Z. And then the noun form is revision. So those regulations, they can be a mess. Regulations are usually set up or passed by a government, and then you must follow them. Most regulations, if you break it or don't follow the regulations, usually don't get put in jail. But not always. Sometimes you can actually be charged with a crime if you go against some regulations. But usually, if you do something wrong, you have to pay some sort of fee. So DFS has increased the number of people with access to financial services by a whopping 41%. That's a lot. Whopping just means really, really big. So that's going very well, and I'm happy for them.
Okay, so with more people having access to financial services, more businesses have been established here. So here in the next sentence it says, since that time, more online businesses have developed and new products made possible by DFS have entered the market. So more businesses can develop. They can get loans to set up their business and stuff like that. They can make sales faster and things like that. So they can also introduce new products to the market, new ways to make money.
Good.
And they've entered the market, so everybody's getting involved. They're not sitting around waiting for handouts from charities or from the government. They're actually able to set up their own businesses and go to work and stuff like that. So Tanzania took to DFS even more quickly. Now we're talking about the example of Tanzania. So remember we said in Ghana, it took some time to get going, maybe because people couldn't accept it or the government was too slow to change the regulations. But in Tanzania, things got going more quickly. The first form of online payment was launched way back in 2008. That was 10 years ago.
I love online payments. It makes life so much easier, faster. We used to have to write out a check for a bill and then try to find a stamp, put it in the envelope, send it to the company. And now you just get online and after a few seconds, that check is in the mail, or at least it's going online to another company. So it's a good thing. 2017, they took a survey where they asked people their opinions. It's kind of like a poll. A survey showed that 60% of Tanzanians had used DFS in the previous 12 months. So they were looking at a time period of a year. And it looks like they've got a lot of them. More than half of the Tanzanians have already tried out DFS. That's great.
So this is part of a case study, and I don't know what the figures are for other countries, but at least on the surface there, it looks like a pretty impressive figure.
Yeah.
60% of citizens in that country use DFS over the past 12 months, the past year. Previous just means past. Now, in both cases, the case of Ghana and Tanzania, DFS was mostly used for payments between individuals at first. So at the beginning there, they were making these payments just between individuals,
right.
One person and another person. They were making them payments, not just going over to someone's house and giving them a wad of cash. They were actually doing this digitally, online, through the internet, through these banks or other financial institutions, and doing it digitally from one person to another.
That's right. So as more and more people began using DFS in this way between individuals, its popularity grew. So it became more and more popular as time went by. And that led to its adoption for other transactions. If you adopt some sort of method, it just means you start or begin to use it. So even though it was just used mainly for payments between individuals, as time went on and people became more excited about it and its popularity grew, more and more people were talking about it, I'm sure. That led to its adoption for other transactions. For example, one of the DFS transactions I enjoy is buying something online, not using my credit card, but then using an ATM to pay for that purchase. That's how I buy things sometimes with PC Home and different online companies. That's probably a different transaction that started to be used after the popularity just shot up. So additionally, or in addition, both case studies show that countries wanting to introduce DFS, they just need to be patient and get the correct regulations in place. You want to protect people and their money. You want to make sure you have enough regulations that people aren't being ripped off or being tricked into giving away their money. Sometimes that happens. They need to be patient, get the correct regulations in place, but then they'll be ready to go for it.
Right, so patience is a virtue there. Please be patient. Wait for your government to get it right, get those correct regulations in place. And now that the two countries have established DFS markets, additional services such as insurance payments and investment options are also being explored. So they're kind of testing the waters here with individual transactions there in these two countries. And now that they've established these markets, now that they've set them up, now that they have been successfully implemented, well, they can start thinking about adding additional services, such as insurance payments and investment options. Okay, so if you're talking about insurance, that means you buy a certain policy and you pay money into this policy, and if you have an accident later on or something like that, then you can get some kind of help from the insurance company. So maybe you can use DFS to make those insurance payments, your monthly payments for your insurance. You know, you have to make those payments.
Those are called premiums.
Premiums, exactly, to pay your premiums every month. And, of course, you might be able to use DFS to do that. That certainly would be wonderful, convenient, especially if it happened automatically, so you wouldn't even have to think about it. And also, we're talking about some investment options, okay? Maybe you could actually buy stocks that way, or other investment possibilities like government bonds or whatever.
Now, these case studies provide valuable insight for countries that want to develop their own DFS markets. So, oftentimes, if you're not familiar with some sort of area or industry, you could just check out some case studies that have been written up. Harvard Business School actually puts together some great case studies that you can look at. You probably have to pay a little bit for them. But case studies really do provide a lot of insight. You can see through other people's experiences what you need to do or avoid. You don't have to make the same mistakes if you check out some case studies in advance. When you talk about insight, it's just your understanding of something. Insight is usually non-count. But if you have a lot of people making different comments, you could talk about the meeting had a lot of different people's perspectives or insights on something. But insight typically is non-count. Just to be safe, don't put an S on it. So they're really great for countries, especially developing countries that are wanting to develop their own DFS markets. We wish them a lot of success. Right now, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll come back to talk about a couple of discussion questions.Hi
everyone, my name is Jenny. 我们今天要继续看第16单元。这个单元里面呢，在绘画当中，我们知道他提到了数位金融服务，希望透过这样子这种数位化的金融服务呢，来帮助穷人，尤其是在发展中国家的这些穷人。那我们来看这个下面的文章，就是要说2个例子，我们用实例来了解这个数位金融服务的情形。这个2个例子呢，一个是 Ghana 我们中文翻成加纳，另外还有一个是 Tanzania 坦尚尼亚。那这2个国家都在非洲，那他们呢到底有什么样的改变？文章里面就说到，世界上还有很多人都没有获得这种金融服务的机会。好，很多人都没有，尤其是乡下地方，还有在这些开发中国家的这些人。所以呢，我们就来看看在 Ghana 也就是加纳还有Tanzania 这2个国家，我们发现它真的有让一般人的生活更加的舒适。怎么说？第一个就来看在 Ghana 这个国家里， DFS 说起来还真的花了一段时间才有办法在这个地方实行，而他们在修改法规之后，他的确用 DFS， 然后呢让这边获得金融服务的人增加了 41%。 重点就在这个 by， 因为我们知道 by 这个介系词它后面再加一个差距，也就是说一个 difference， 到底差了多少，我们会用 by 这个介系词。以这边来说，哇，它增加了 41%， 这个数字这个 percentage 就是一个差距。好，接下来下面又继续说，在坦尚尼亚呢比较早哦，它甚至更快的就开始了 DFS。 好，这个地方我们来看 Tanzania， 它呢开始的时间其实比较快。 Took to 这个片语，我们讲 take to something， 这个 to 还是一个介系词的 to 的用法，所以它后面是加名词或者是动名词。那 take to something 就是 begin, start doing something 也就是启动开始着手。好，所以在这个国家它开始的比较快。那时间他说2008年他就已经有推动这种网络付款的形式了，而2017年他又显示说这边的人有60%在过去这一年里面他有用过 DFS。 好，那这个数字当然很令人惊讶，原来在非洲的国家真的他们也慢慢的越来越 popular 了，这种金融服务的部分。而从这两个案例我们会发现说，一开始可能它只限于个人之间，人跟人个人的付款，可是当越来越多人用以后，它的普及度就增加了。好，我们知道普及度讲到 popularity， 他说到 its popularity grew leading to its adoption for other transactions。 好，本来是人跟人，当然后来其他方面可能是进一步的其他的交易也都采用 DFS。 采用这个字看到 adoption， 本来 adopt ADOPT 就是采用，所以这是它的名词的形式。那我们要留意的就是说，有另外一个字跟它拼字蛮像的，是 ADAPT。 如果是 adapt， 发音不太一样，它就代表了改编调整，所以注意一下，两个字完全不同。这边的是采用的意思 adoption， adapt 变成 adaptation， 那是完全不同的字了。好，我们看造成 leading to 这个后面就加结果，但是就文法上来看的话，也要注意为什么我们用 leading ing 呢？当然这是一个分词，因为它其实就是把它简化成为一个分词的片语来修饰前面，谈到它的 popularity， 谈到它的普及度，然后造成了，可以改成 and led to。这个 led to 当然我不要这样写，把它变成分词构句就可以了。好，最后呢，我们就来看从这两个例子，相信我们知道 DFS 的市场是可以建立的。当然后面的接续的保费啦，像投资选择的其他服务现在也正在被研究。不过前面有说起来要记得，当你想要引进 DFS 的国家呢，你一定要很有耐性，然后要让合适的法规上路。那既然这两个国家它成立了，那所以后续的东西也要研究。谈到既然就是 now that 这个片语其实有时候可以简称为 now 一个字就可以了， that 不写没有关系，它的意思就相当于 since， 那这个意思就表示既然。好，我们今天的讲解就到这边结束，我们下次见。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We are now going to have a couple of discussion questions to finish up our lesson on DFS here. Our first question here is, why are regulations important to an industry?
Well, one of the most important industries, of course, in all of our lives is the banking industry. And we know that if the banks aren't regulated enough, there's trouble. We had a big recession in 2007, 2008, because the banks kind of went wild with subprime mortgages. You'll have to look into that. There's a great movie called The Big Short that came out a couple of years ago that kind of breaks it all down. And if you don't understand what happened, I really suggest that movie. It's funny too. It's really good. But banks, if they give away too much credit to people who are a big risk, sometimes it can really hurt everyone in the long run, and that's what happened. They were giving mortgages to people who couldn't really afford to pay for their houses or apartments monthly, and the market kind of just all crashed. We don't want that. So sometimes regulations are important to protect everyone as a whole. But as we've seen, too many regulations stop your economy from growing, and we all want the economy to grow.
Absolutely. To keep things stimulated, so everybody has something to do, a job to go to, money to make, etc. And we want to keep on purchasing things all the time to keep the economy rolling. So, yeah, you can talk about regulations amongst yourself. Is there such a thing as too many regulations?
Yes.
Or too few regulations?
Yes.
Okay, so here's another question here. In what ways is Taiwan moving away from using cash? Okay, that's what DFS is all about, getting away from a cash economy and having everything be digital. And yes, indeed, I think Taiwan is kind of half and half here. A lot of transactions are digital, but cash is still king in a lot of places. So they're moving away slowly, I suppose. They just love their cash here. And as you mentioned earlier, some of these businesses just don't want to pay the extra fee to credit card companies. Yeah, who would? I wouldn't blame them. But maybe eventually you probably can't make any sales unless you offer credit card services.
Yeah, the one thing that surprised me is we don't use debit cards here as much as we do in the States. In the States, of course, we are using that debit card. It looks like a credit card. It might even have a MasterCard or Visa on it. But when you go to buy something, the money that you're spending is being taken out of your account. It's not credit. You don't have to pay a credit card bill. It's actually being deducted from cash that's in your account. I was surprised that we're not using debit cards as much here in Taiwan. Although I do love the ATM system here. It's pretty awesome. In America, the ATMs are just used to get cash out. That's it. So it's kind of nice that we can pay for other things with an ATM and transfer money to other people. A lot of times when Tom and I record outside of AMC, we're paid in cash, but sometimes a company wants to just transfer money into our accounts, and that can be pretty easy. So, yeah, I would agree with you. I think Taiwan's kind of half and half. I don't want to get rid of cash entirely because that's scary. If someone hacks your account, you don't have anything. And even though the government can protect you to some extent, it's a little scary to think that you could lose all your money through a hacker.
Yeah, cash is also kind of cultural, you know. There's something about holding it in your hand and looking at the picture of those kids looking at the globe or those baseball player kids throwing their hats up in the air or that picture of that deer on the back of the 500 NT dollar note.
We have very pretty money in Taiwan.
Yeah, money is very cultural, so indeed I hope cash is around at least for some time to come. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Thank you so much for listening to us, and please join us again next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie. Bye.